Greetings, First Presbyterian Church family. This is actually Thursday morning that I'm recording this study. It's our update on Philippians. We are now in the second chapter of the Philippians, letter to the Philippians, and I'm just going to look at the first four verses today. As a reminder or summary of where we are, Philippi, the city of Philippi. It is in northeastern Greece, near the modern-day Turkish border and the border with Bulgaria. It was a trade city, and it was not a gateway city per se from Asia to Europe, that transportation back and forth, but it was a city along the way, near the great, let's say relatively near the great ports of that time, and so it was cosmopolitan. It was they were aware. There's a lot of trade, like I said, going through this city. I think in North Carolina we have Interstate 85, which enters from Virginia, comes down through Durham, close to Raleigh. Does not get to the state capital of Raleigh, but it's close to Raleigh, and then through Durham, goes along Burlington, Greensboro, which is the third largest city in the state, Raleigh being number 2, and then down through the Piedmont. It gets close to Winston-Salem, which is the third largest city, goes through some other places, comes through Charlotte, the Queen City, my birthplace, and the largest city in the state, and then on into South Carolina through Greenville and Spartanburg, and then Greenville. This is an area, the majority of the state lives within, say, 100 miles either side of Interstate 85. And actually, we had one governor, as his strategy for elections was to really focus his events in cities along the I-85 corridor. It would get on the news, and people watching the news, somebody in Winston-Salem would be watching news out of Greensboro, and they would get the update of what he was doing in the election, and that way he was able to expose himself to politically in a way to a large number of the state, just by sticking with that interstate. I think of, in Virginia, the time from I-95 goes from D.C. down to Richmond, then picks up I-64 down to the Norfolk area. Virginia, you got to say it, Norfolk, old Virginia. Hampton Roads, that port area. A lot goes on, and even for the little country towns there, people are used to people traveling through, goods and services moving through the area. Third analogy, and I've given it before, in Texas, I think of the Texas Triangle, Golden Triangle of Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio, Houston, with Mayfield and branches out from there. So this is, again, city, many people living there. There are Romans that are there. If you're a citizen of Philippi, you count as a citizen of Rome. It's an outpost, a little Rome. So maybe not so much for this congregation. They seem to primarily be Greek speakers and of Greek cultured. But there are some. And again, the Roman jailer, maybe a government official, may have been a citizen. Also, you've got people from areas that have traveled there and settled there. The church began in the city with that jailer, with the dealer in purple goods, Lydia, and with the young slave girl, who we assume has now been freed because she no longer has that spirit of divination. Paul has a good relationship with this church. They've twice given him a gift, now a third time a gift. He's in prison, and so he's writing a thank you note, and that is the purpose. Thank you, love y'all, let me just encourage you. So, question mark, were there many problems or challenges in this church? Now, every church has challenges and problems, at least with a small p. It's been said, story told, someone going to another pastor saying, oh, our church has a lot of problems. He says, would you have a lot of people? He said, yeah, we got a lot of people. Then you're going to have a lot of problems. The old joke, too, is you'll never find the perfect church, but if you do, don't join it. You'll ruin it. So, they were not perfect. They do not seem to be having the kind of problems that other churches had, and that's why the letters were written. And so the question mark is, were they basically a healthy church doing well, weren't perfect, and Paul will speak to that, or was he using a thank you note as a way to gently say, you got a few issues over here? Why that says is the section we're about to look and to go into in the second chapter speaks to hints of some issues among the people. Was it some petty rivalries among the people? Later he will speak about two who are having some issues in a very subtle way. Or was it just, hey, you're doing great, you're like an A- church. This is what it would take to get to a full grade A. Or you're B-, B+, and this will get you to the A range. Question mark there. But he does speak to a particular challenge, and I will say a small p problem in the church, when he says in chapter 2, if then there is any encouragement in Christ, any consolation from love, any sharing in the Spirit, any compassion and sympathy, make my joy complete, be of the same mind, having the same love, being in full accord and of one mind. Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility regard others as better than yourselves. Let each of you look not to your own interests, but to the interests of others. He will follow up with an example of that kind of servanthood, but that's next week that we will do. He says, if there's any encouragement in Christ, if any consolation from love, if any sharing of the Spirit, and any compassion and sympathy. The kind of if used here means if you are my friend, and you know you're my friend. Okay, so it's conditional because it's if, but we already know the outcome. One person suggested this is a little bit of emotional blackmail for Paul, saying, if you love me, you'll do this. Or the coach saying, hey, you really need to win one for me, or win one for that kind of thing might going on. But also pointing out that Paul so clearly identified with his congregations, identified with the mission of Christ. It's more of the whole body. He is speaking more to them as a whole body, not necessarily make me, Paul, happy here. There are four things that he speaks that if there is encouragement, consolation, five things, fellowship, affection, compassion. If there's any of this among you, then do this. Encouragement, comforting kind of encouragement. I did the research on the words. Consolation, drawing one away from care to feeling comfortable. That kind of consolation. Fellowship, koinonia, the word is used, which we may have heard in other sermons preached by the pastors. Heard that term. The deep kind of fellowship. Affection, tender feelings, compassion, tender feelings. If there's any of this, then these are the four things you need to do. Be of the same mind, same love, united in spirit, intent on one purpose. Now think of those four. Being of the same mind is our heads. Same love, our emotions. United in spirit, the will, same will. And then intent on one purpose, having the same goals, the same actions going in that direction. That kind of speaks to the physical. Interesting, the word about united in spirit or harmonious in spirit. And, source said that there was a gravestone found for a couple in this time period in Greece. And talked about we spoke the same things, we thought the same things, and we go to the inseparable way in Hades together. A sense of togetherness, that being of that same mind. Not necessarily thinking exactly the same thing in terms of the mind, but having that same attitude, that same perspective. Be united together. Do nothing from selfish ambition. The word there has an interesting history. At one point meaning jockeying for position, ambition in a political campaign, plotting for place and power. Any kind of suspense political movie you have seen, you would observe people doing just that. How can I get into a position here or there? Again, I'm sure some of the TV shows that you watch, House of Cards, I was on television a while back, based on a British show of the same title. that I think of there, jockeying for power. Where am I? Who am I in relationship to whom? Who am I? Where do I place in all of this? Oh, somebody like that. Empty conceit, personal vanity. Do nothing from this, but in humility do your other actions. In humility, look out for one another's interests, not your own, but those of others. A humility, a sense of recognizing who we are and who Christ is. It's not a sense of putting yourself down, and all kinds of expressions that can be used for that, but a realization, this is who I am with my insufficiencies, what I lack, well, my gifts, but also what I lack. But then this is also Christ and what He has. Who am I relative to Christ? Being aware of myself, accurate view of myself, and then how can I be focused on others? Shifting that focus from how can I position myself amongst the group to how can I be of service to this group. That is the call, the challenge to which He gives to them. And again, He will expand on that in what follows. And we'll go to that next week. Here he calls them, Paul calls the people, not from selfishness, shameless ambition, or empty conceit, empty vanity. Seek to serve one another. Be of the same mind, same love, united in spirit, and intent on one purpose. A call for any church to pursue that unity. As I think for this church, as we begin to come out of Coronaville, and we don't really know the end of this chapter, the end of the story, where we are in the story arc, we don't even know that. But as we're into the new stages and going forward and rebuilding, reassessing, reevaluating, going forward, what will be our mindset and towards one another, towards our fellowship, towards our mission in this community? These are things to keep in mind. I want to conclude with a couple of announcements. Not this week. We will still be recording and have it available to you on YouTube, the worship service for May 31st. And I'll conclude the series on the Apostles' Creed. June 7th, we'll begin a series on the book of Ruth, and we will be worshiping live in place. However, we will also be recording the service. It'll go later Sunday afternoon, though, on YouTube, so you cannot watch it Sunday morning. You need to watch it Sunday afternoon or later in the week. So if you have a sense that you need to remain at home, please do so, and you can watch it then. Also, if you're not too sure how it's going to be on the 7th, that's our first day back, look to come on the 14th. We're asking people to contact the church office so you can reserve your seat, what time, what service, and what seat. We're offering 3, 8:30, not the 8:45. Okay, so for those early service folks, remember it's 8:30, 9:45, and 11. I think at this point, 9:45 is the most open of the services, though we have people signed up for all 3. Among those in the congregation, we're going to have a maximum of 40, and that's why it's important to make your reservation, and so we can have an assigned seat. We'll have a deacon showing you to your seat, and to keep everything good, socially distant, and safe. And we will operate this way through July 5th. Also, no Sunday school and no nursery. We'll also be cleaning the sanctuary. We'll be giving a good wipe down between services so it would be safe. Have any questions, contact the church office as we look towards reopening on June 7th. But that will be a new day. And not only that, Monday, June 1st, I plan on opening the curtains again in my office. I've had them closed since all this mess began. But I plan on opening the curtains on June 1st, and I'm looking forward to that. Take care.